John chapter 8, we'll begin to read at the 12th verse. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The Pharisees challenged him, Here you are, appearing as your own witness. Your testimony is not valid. Jesus answered, Even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid, for I know where I came from and where I am going. But you have no idea where I came from or where I am going. You judge by human standards. I pass judgment on no one. But if I do judge, my decisions are right, because I am not alone. I stand with the Father who sent me. In your own law, it is written that the testimony of two men is valid. I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the Father who sent me. Then they asked him, Where is your Father? You do not know me or my Father, Jesus replied. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. He spoke these words while teaching in the temple area near the place where the offerings were put. Yet no one seized him because his time had not yet come. Reading to the end of the 20th verse of this portion of God's Word. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Through our Lenten messages, we have been looking at the claims Jesus made for himself. He claimed to be the light. Not to bring the light, but to be the light. Sometimes on the mission field, and our mission fields now are getting much more cityfied, but when they used to be a little more rural, many of the places didn't have lights in their churches. And as the people came to church, they'd light their lamps that they'd use at home, and they'd come bringing their lamps to church. And as they came into the church at night when it was dark, each one that came in, it brightened up the church a little more. Until by the time they had a good crowd of people there, the church was nice and bright, just like daylight, because each one brought their light. And we are to bring our light into the darkness of this world. But Jesus didn't just say he brought light, although that would be accurate, but he said, I am the light. He is the real light. In the temple that Solomon built, dedicated, we hear, and as we read in 1 Kings 8 and verse 11, says, the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. The Shekinah glory, the light of God, filling the house of the Lord. That was the light. And Jesus says, I am that light of God that comes into the world. In this sense, then Jesus is the light. Let's look at a few things about light. The value of natural light, first of all, gives us clear vision, isn't it? So much nicer, and I think all of us probably like the daylight, the daytime, to go out, you can see everything. It makes such a difference having the light. We can see well. We like to be able to see well. I have great concern for blind people. I think Jesus did. Many of his healings were healing blind folk. I think he had a special compassion for them, special empathy for them, because being blind must be an awful thing, not being able to see. Oh, I trust we thank God for our eyesight, whether it's good or bad, whether we have to wear these things or not, but and most of us do. But be able to see. And Jesus enables us to see, not just the physical that these eyes might, but to see beyond that, to see the spiritual side of life. That's why so many people just can't understand the gospel. They say, it doesn't make any sense. I can't understand it. No, because they haven't come to Jesus. They haven't had their eyes open to that true light of the gospel. Jesus helps men to see, helps us to see where we stand in life. That's a lot of people. They think they're okay because they're perhaps as good as the next person, as the expression often goes. But where do you stand before God? That's what happens. See, it doesn't matter so much, and don't take that too far, but it doesn't matter so much what other people think of us. We want them to think well, we want to be a good example to others, but that's not the real important part. What does God think? Because he sees the real person. We may fool some people. Who was it, Barnum and Bailey, that said you can fool all of the people some of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's true. And we can go a step beyond him because he was just talking about circuses, but when we're talking about the Lord, you can't fool God any of the time. We might be able to fool others. We might be able to give a good impression to others, but God sees through all the impressions and knows exactly who we are, what we see. He helps us to know where we stand in life, where we stand before others, who we really are. They say, and I question it, but they say that young people, the main problem is, the question is, who am I? Who am I really? Well, maybe some people think that way. I don't think I ever did, but maybe some do. But who am I? Well, don't ask somebody else. Ask God. He'll tell you who you really are. See, others might tell a lot of things about you. And hopefully they'll tell a lot of good things. But only God knows who we really are. Sees behind all the facade to know who we really are. Helps us to know that. And he prevents us from stumbling over the obstacles of life. There are many stumbling blocks, many things that the devil would put in our way to trip us up. And there's a lot of pressure, peer pressure, whatever term you want to give, but that will trip people up. We need Jesus to show us the real way. He is the light. Can you pretend for a minute that it's midnight and it's dark in here and no lights on and no light really coming through the windows because it's dark and the exit light isn't working and it's dark. And so you want to get around here or wherever you might be. And maybe there's a stumbling block there. I could trip right over that and end up head first. So I better go. But, oops, I have a light. I've been able to see that. I can get by these obstacles because I have a light. I come here to this step and I put on, now if it was really dark in here, I wouldn't be able to see that there's a drop at the other end there. This light wouldn't show that, this flashlight wouldn't show that far. It doesn't go anywhere now, but it does show here. Enough that I can look and see where that step is, and then I can put it up and I see where the next step is. And step by step, I can't see very far ahead, but that light will show us step by step. And Jesus doesn't show us the whole picture. See, we'd like to see the end from the beginning. But he says, just trust me. Just walk with me. I'll show you enough light on your path for each step as you take it. Just keep the light shining. Stepping in the light, stepping in the light. How wonderful to walk in the steps of the Savior, stead in paths of light. And so you get to the end. Oh, there is a something there. And so my light shows me where the step is, and I can step down and get along and back over another obstacle because I have a light. Oh, it could have been dangerous there if I hadn't had the light. Wish the kids had been here. I could have demonstrated that a little more. But Jesus is the light. He lights our path, step by step through life. Do we have to be concerned about tomorrow? Not if it's in God's hands. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what next week is or next year. But I can just walk with God step by step. I can trust Him that as He has looked after me for all these years, I can have confidence He'll look after me for all the years that are ahead. And if there aren't many years ahead, He'll take me home and look after me there too. So He is the light, shows us that path along the way. He reveals what is in us, reveals the beauty. Don't we sing that song, "Let the beauty of Jesus be seen in me"? How? Because He reveals that. He shows us the wonderful way that He made us, the talents that He gave us. The psalmist said, "We are wonderfully made, and oh, how we are." I don't mean that to be boasting about ourselves, but boasting about what God has done and how great He is. He reveals what we really are, the goodness of us. Don't get down on yourself when things maybe go badly, or when somebody's criticizing, or when you fail at some task that you've done. Just look to Jesus and let Him show you what creature you are in His sight, how wonderfully He has made us, and how He blesses us, and how He keeps us. He reveals that the goodness of us. He brings the best out of us. Satan brings the worst out of us, but Jesus brings the best out of us. Makes us all that He planned us to be. He is the light of our life. It gives us joy and purpose as we journey through. Light is also penetrating. This is perhaps the reverse side of what we were looking at in that first area I looked at. Light is penetrating. It gets into every crevice. See, if it was dark in here, or even if we came in before the lights were put on, you can see your way around here in the daytime without the lights on, but it doesn't show too much. But when you put a bright light on, it shows everything. It shows every crevice. It shows every flaw in the place. And I had my house in Sealy's Bay there. To save heat in the winter, I put a drape over the bottom of the stairs, there was only one register upstairs, so we didn't get much heat up there. But anyway, in order to save the heat, one close off, I had a bedroom downstairs, and I had a little washroom put in, so I could live downstairs quite well. And I put this drape over the bottom of the stairs to keep the heat from going up because it rises. And it looked like a pretty good drape. It wasn't a new one. It had a long time. But sometimes, if I was maybe upstairs, had the light out, but a light downstairs, one side of the curtain, from the dark side you could look and you'd see little spots of light coming through. That curtain wasn't as solid as it looked, there are a few little holes in it. I don't know whether a moth had got in it sometime or just what, but all these little spots of light showed through the curtain that revealed that it wasn't as in good a shape as it maybe appeared on the outside. And that's the way with our lives. Yes, we might appear great to other people, but there might be things hidden inside that aren't so good. And Jesus reveals that. Why does he reveal it? Because he wants to correct it. He wants to block out those holes. Wants to give us a good life. But it's only as we become aware of it that we take it to him, to let him fix it up. So he reveals the problem. We may be driving our car. It may seem to be running fine until you notice something. Say you have the radio on in the car most of the time, and it sounds good. But then someday you go out and you turn the radio off, you're driving along and you listen. Something doesn't sound right there. There's a knock or there's something the mechanics know, or, I better get that to the garage and get them to check that thing out. See? It was revealed to you. That which you didn't hear over the radio, now you can hear as you drive along. And so you can do something about it and get it corrected before something serious happens and you break down in the middle of the 401 sometime. And that's why Jesus reveals what our needs are in our life so that we can get them corrected and living for him and have an assurance that we have a home to go to in heaven because we belong to the Lord and we're prepared to meet him. And anything that he reveals to us, we'll take it to the Lord in prayer and trust it to him to clear and be able to live in victory. God is able to reveal every need that we have to take to him. He reveals the real you. Just as he revealed all the good part, how the beauty of Jesus in our lives and the good part of our lives, he reveals the needs so that they can be turned into the better way. Another thing with the revelation of light is that no darkness can block it out. That's what John wrote in the first chapter of his gospel, John 1 and 5. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Modern translations say the darkness could not overcome it or could not put it out. Darkness can't do it. Isn't that the wonderful thing about light, You have light in here, dark night outside, no moon shining. That darkness is at the window, but it can't get in, can it? As long as we have the light shining. The darkness cannot penetrate the light. But if you go outside, you can see the light penetrating out through the window. I came home the other night from Toronto, and Joel and Cynthia were in here, and their lights on. And as we came down near the church, it was not real dark, but it was a dark enough night. But the church was aglow. I could see the light coming out those windows as we came down, and the light penetrating out. But the darkness can't penetrate in. And friends, take faith and confidence and encouragement in that Satan is in darkness, and he wants his darkness to attack us. But when Jesus is in our lives, the darkness of Satan cannot attack. It can attack, but it cannot penetrate us. We don't have to give in to it. We can have victory no matter what storms are going on around about us, because the light of Jesus is in our lives, lighting us up, giving us victory, and lighting and spreading out from that, and the darkness cannot put that light out. Satan thinks he can, and he tries, but he is a defeated foe. He cannot win. He cannot put the light out. We can be victorious. Jesus can lighten the worst of sinners. Many of us have had that experience as we've tried to reach out as a church to people and maybe seen certain ones that say, oh, that person, they're so far gone, they'll never become a Christian. And sometimes I think Jesus, in his sense of humor, says, you think that? Just let me show you, you know. And that's the very person that will become a Christian. And that other person that's such a nice person, you think, oh, they're almost a Christian. I'm sure they're going to be a Christian. They may never become. They could, but they may not. But the light of the gospel can penetrate into the darkest corners of the world. Africa was known as a dark continent, but Africa today is having revivals. The Word of God is spreading. Our church is growing in Africa faster than we can keep track of it, I think. It's amazing. God is working, penetrating the darkness, bringing light into people's lives, and he can do it here. And oh, if there's darkness in your life, turn it over to Jesus. Let his light come in and give that joy and peace and satisfaction and presence of God in your life. Man needs light. We don't want to live in darkness. It's not healthy. It's not good for us. We need it. We're often told it's good to get out in the sunlight, you know. Even this artificial light helps in some ways, but people need to get out in the sunlight and enjoy that. It brings certain elements into us. What is it? Vitamin D or something we get from the sunlight, one of the vitamins. I'm not into that stuff, but I like to get outdoors. Summer or winter, I think it's that the light, I think, helps us in the fresh air too. The man needs light, not darkness. In our text, in the latter part of that 12th verse, said, he that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. We need the light of life. Not talking there about the physical, I used as illustration, and Jesus uses an illustration about walking in the darkness, but he's talking about that darkness in our lives. Men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. But when our deeds are for Christ, we want to walk in light. We need that. Jesus did not come to rebuke or to condemn, but to show us the way to God, to light the way before us, to show us how to go. Want to know what God's like? Want to know what God's will is like? Read the Gospels. See what Jesus was like. See what Jesus did. How he shed the light of the gospel in his day. And he still sheds the light of the gospel into the lives of all those who will give him room. But this wonderful light is not just for Christians. Notice the first part of the verse there, if you're still in verse 12, then spake Jesus again unto them. Again unto them. Who was them? Well, go back the first part of the chapter 8. Jesus had been in the community. Some of the Pharisees, leaders of the people, brought a woman who had been taken in adultery. They were all ready to condemn her and to stone her and put an end to it, her life. They said to ask Jesus what he did. And Jesus kind of rebuked them. I'm not sure what he wrote in the ground, but whatever it was, it brought conviction to them, and one by one they left that part. And he forgave the woman and said, go and sin no more. A lot of people like to stop before that, you know. Well, I forgave her. Wonderful. Yes, he did. But he said, go and sin no more. He didn't say it's all right to live that way or to sin, but go and sin no more. But who was he? Those people that had been ready to condemn her, those people whose love had been so darkened that it was not there anymore. He said to them, I am the light of the world. You're walking in darkness, you people. You people that want to condemn. You people that want to bring rebuke upon others. But I'm the light. I bring forgiveness. I bring hope. I bring assurance. I bring light into the darkness of your life. That's what people need. It was for them. It was not just for the Christians. It was for all people. And that's why we need to keep showing that light to others. We must not hide it. God gave us light that we might use it. Matthew 5 and verse 15. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. You don't hide it. You want to make that light available, you know. You want to shine it out to others to see. To lift high the light of the gospel. Go back one verse there in verse 14. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Let's lift up our light. Let us shine in this dark world about us, letting the light of Jesus Christ shine through our lives, penetrating the darknesses around about us. Jesus said, I am the light, but he also said, ye are the light of the world too, didn't he? And as we walk in the light, we shed it upon the paths of others as well as ourselves. In John 8, first epistle of John, chapter 1, verse 7. If ye walk in the light as he is in the light, ye have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Jesus Christ cleanses from all sin. If you walk in the light, not just have the light, but use the light. Walk in it. Demonstrate it. Live in such a way that the light of Jesus Christ can shine out through our lives into that darkened world about us. He is the light that shineth through you to others. Going back to Matthew 5 and verse 16. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Did you get that last part? Let your light shine, that others will see and glorify your Father. That's our purpose in life, to live to glorify God and to glorify him before others, that they might see that light and come to glorify God, to know him in all his fullness. That it will show through us. Closing illustration. You've probably heard it before, but little girl grew up in a church where they had these fancy stained glass windows with all the pictures of people in the windows, you know. And one day in Sunday school, she was asked, they were talking about saints, and she was asked, well, what is a saint? And she thought for a minute, and then she said, oh, I know. A saint are the people that the light shines through. Thinking of those stained glass windows. But she had it, didn't she? That's what a saint is. It's a person the light shines through. And God calls us his people, his saints. He wants a light to to shine through us to others. Truly, the light of the world is Jesus. The whole world was lost in the darkness of sin. The light of the world is Jesus. Oh, let his light shine through your life day by day.